All right, so animation production pipeline. So this is a general animation production process broken down. Now, this is pretty regular. I mean, there may be variations depending on different studios and what have you. And obviously, depending on what your output is going to make a difference as well. So this is talking like if you're going to just make a normal pre-rendered film, not something for game design or anything like that. This is just like a normal, very basic kind of thing. So you can break it down into three different stages. There's pre-production, which is basically all of the things that you develop in order to create the story, the look, everything that honestly has like probably the largest effect on the production, but you don't actually see in the film, right? So have you ever like watch any of the behind the scenes features, and or you get one of those books and it says the art of Pixar or something like that, or the art of whatever. It's all like the artwork that's made, and it's people talking about story and things like that. The production's when you actually make the things that are going to go into the film. Okay, so that's all of the assets. That's creating the models. That's rigging the models, animating the models, and rendering the results. Okay, so basically creating the stuff that you're actually going to see. And then post-production, which is typically a little bit lighter than you're going to see in like a live-action production, because really you almost never animate anything that you're not actually going to use because it's so expensive to make the animation. Where film can be anywhere like 30-1, animation you rarely see even be 2-1. As far as like amount of footage to what you use. You almost never see that. So, but basically post-production just involves the editing and putting the sound design into the film. Okay. So getting into pre-production first, the number one thing you need to do is an idea. Okay. So before you create anything, you need that idea. Okay. It's best to try and do something simple. But again, like I said before, you want to do what you know. So I'm going to use my thesis film I did when I did my MFA for animation. At the time, I had a chinchilla, okay? And my chinchilla, he was a cool little guy. We named him Chinchy because I wasn't very creative. And I was also engaged, okay? So I had, lived in like an apartment with my my fiancée, if you will. And I had the chinchilla. Well, he was in a cage and he was cool, and we all hung out and we had him for a long time. But I was like, he should have like a girlfriend. And I thought that'd be really cool. So I got him I bought a female chinchilla and I put it in the cage, with him. But even, I don't know what like a good looking chinchilla is, but like she wasn't attractive. I mean, she kind of was real plain looking. She was bigger than he was. First thing he did when he saw her is he just like licked his hands and like rubbed her face. I don't know if he was trying to like pretty her up or something. But anyway, and she was just nasty. She would snicker at it. It was just like a terrible thing. And I felt horrible about it. But I saw this sort of like, this parallel between his life and mine, and like this. So I ended up making a film basically about that. Like basically like, in a sense, a girl chinchilla being brought into a guy chinchilla, and like, there's marriage things kind of thrown into it, like, because it's what I knew, it's what I was going through, it's what I understood. So anyway, so that's where my idea was based off of. So again, you want to do what you know. That's the most important thing. Just as a point to understand that and I usually use film because that's kind of more where my area is, but any of the Pixar productions, almost all of them, the ideas come from the directors themselves. So even like Nemo, that was actually that was Andrew Stanton, I believe, and he based it off because he had just had a child, and he was saying how, like, when you have a kid, you want to protect them, but you don't know what they can do, but you need to let them live. You need to let them go out and explore, and that's kind of what that film's about to some extent. You know what I mean? The child has the smaller fin and isn't capable of doing certain things, and he's overbearing. But you're going to see that like constantly. Okay, so anyway, so that's the idea. The next thing to do is create the script. Now, a script for animation in general is not really as important. Most of the time what we do is we write like a simple treatment. And all a treatment is, it's just writing out the idea in a 1 to maybe 3 paragraphs. A lot of times, you don't even write a script. It just will go straight to storyboard. The first Disney film that actually used a script was Beauty and the Beast. All of the Disney films before then, they were straight storyboards and nothing else, to give you an idea. If you ever look at like SpongeBob, for instance, all of their film, you know, they have all these shows, and they'll have like the writer. If you're a writer, they literally write one line. It's like SpongeBob goes to the store to buy something, and that will be the idea, and that's all they're given, and then they do the storyboards from that. And a lot of television productions are done like that. So a lot of it's storyboard. So the script isn't really so important, particularly in animation, because we are such a visual medium. However, it's good to write down the idea. So I would say we would write like a treatment, and that's typically what we do. So you just write like a quick little one paragraph, describe the idea, just real plain, you know, this is that, and the whole 9 yards. Now during that, sometimes concurrently, sometimes after, you'll come up with the character design and the art direction. So you'll have a whole team, and they just develop the look of what you want the film to look like. Typically what you want to do is use the time period, the location, oftentimes a strong character artist that's like your, you know, the core, and build the designs off of that. Okay. Try to be influenced by what you're making. Okay. So you'll see most of the time, almost every production does that. If they're going to do a film that takes place in the Middle East, they'll use Middle Eastern art. You know what I mean? Look at any of the Disney films. They're great examples. If you look at like, Hercules, it's very much influenced by Greek stuff. If you look at like Mulan, obviously it's influenced by Chinese art. If you look at, any one of them, you can see that they use the location and the time period in order to influence the art. Storyboard, that's probably the most important aspect of the whole thing. Basically what you do, you probably know what storyboard is. It looks like a comic strip, and you just go through and you basically go shot to shot, and you try to display what it's going to be. So you do a new panel for each new camera angle, and you also do a panel for each major action or storytelling moment, okay? Theoretically, if you were to show someone the storyboard, they should know what your film is based off of just that. If they cannot read it from the storyboard, the film's not going to work. It doesn't matter what you do later on in production. It should read here. After that's the animatic, and basically it's the storyboard, but over time. All you do is you take it, you cut it together, and you just, say this frame is this long, this frame is this long, this frame is this long, and then you can hit play and you can see it, kind of playing along in a very simple sort of animated sense, okay? Once you get through this, and this pre-production part, so that's the last pre-production aspect, is the most important part. So I went to a Pixar masterclass once, and they had like one of their story guys, and he said basically, production's anywhere from 4 to 5 years, and he said of that they will spend roughly about 2.5 years just on pre-production. So literally about half of it is spent that. Vicky Jensen, is that her name? She was one of the co-directors for Shrek, the original one. She was a storyboard artist. They were 4 years into production before she ever became the director, because it originally was supposed to be this action adventure, and she's like, oh no, it should be a comedy. And as soon as she said that, that's when they actually switched it. So that thing went into production for who knows how long, but the pre-production went for over 4 years. That's crazy. So pre-production is the most important thing. If this part doesn't work, nothing else is going to save it. All right, so after that goes modeling, and that's basically developing the 3D forms, okay? Looks like this. The wireframe, you're familiar with it. This will look like this, but if you actually want to see it, you have to surface it, which basically means that you apply materials to it that mimic real life surfaces, right? When light hits it, what's it going to throw back at us, okay? So that includes throwing materials and also putting on textures, basically the color and the paint and the micro adjustments, the way that the light hits off of it. That's all texturing, okay? Things that are so small that you can't model them, but they do affect the way the light refracts off of it. After that, what you do is rigging. So basically you're going to take the models that you made, which are just stiff models, you can't animate these, and you rig them. And so basically you put in a series of bones and different deformers and controllers so that the animator can move them, just like they would move like any sort of puppet. From there, you take all the pieces together, and there's a layout department, and they will put in the cameras, maybe some mock lighting, and the sets, and the characters, and very simple, basic animation of like just a character moving from left to right, to just get an idea of camera direction and, action direction and things like that. then they'll actually animate it. They'll take, this will go from this department, and then each shot is done this way. You can see the whole film. It's sort of, at the end of the layout, it looks like a 3D animatic, basically. They'll take that, and then they'll take each shot will be given to different animators, and they will actually do the animation, which is the movement of the characters. Then from there, once that's all done and good, they'll go to lighting and rendering, which basically they put in lights, just like you have real world lights. If there's no lights, this is black. You will see nothing. Okay? So the lights let you see what it is, and you can have a lot of lights, you know. So typically, if I'm in like a production, I could have anywhere from like 3 to 4 to 5 lights to like 30 lights or more. Okay, kind of depends on what you need and what have you, but it's what makes things look good to great is during lighting, and it's an area I'm actually particularly weak at. And rendering is actually taking, after you've done the lighting, is actually taking your 3D stuff and recording it like you would record film. You put a camera in there, and then it will take every image, it will take every little motion and make an image sequence out of it. Okay. Then what you do is you usually render out a bunch of different frames. So ones that like only capture the character, ones that capture just shadows, one that capture the specular highlights, different things. And then you'll composite them together to make a final image. Then you'll edit it, which just like you would edit film. You cut one piece to another piece to what have you. And then you'll put the sound. And basically there's two main aspects of sound. There's the background music, which is the soundtrack. That controls more or less the feeling of it. If you have a kind of a somber thing, it makes you feel that way. And then there's sound effects, which mimic the action, right? If you have someone punch someone and you don't have a it doesn't feel like they're punching them. It just feels shallow. So anyway, those are usually the two aspects. Here I just have a quick thing of what the different menus are, so you can open up these. And they will just say, like, you can see this is highlighted, this is number 2, and there's 4, so 4 is this one. Just so that, like, if I talk about something, you know, like, what part I'm talking about. This is what we did in class as our demonstration. Basically, what I like to do, is go through the entire process. So we're just going to quickly model, just using primitives and basic adjustments, and make an animation of like an ant going onto an ant hill or something like that. So these are just 2 video. See, I did it in 2 videos, so that means it's like half an hour long. It's pretty quick. And you'll make a little bit of a little animation, no problem. It'll be terrible, but you'll get the idea of what the whole workflow is just by watching these 2 things and following along as best you can. All right. So the first assignment is going to be create an animal model. All right. So what I want you to do is just use primitives. You don't have to connect them. You don't have to do anything fancy. You literally just going to take, you know, spheres and cylinders and cubes, stick them together, and try and make an animal. It can be any animal you like. Okay. I want you to make the animal, model it as best you can, and then texture it, throw materials on it, texture it, throw some lights in there, and render it out. Make a rendered image. I want the image. And I also want the actual files that you created in order to make that image, okay? Again, it's sort of like the same thing as here. You just aren't animating it, but it'll give you a good idea of going through the whole process. It's more about just getting used to the basic transform tools, your rotate, your scale, your move, those things, and selections, and navigating in the camera and in the software as well. So to do that, you can actually watch these 2 tutorials. These will go through, I make this ugly dog using primitives, and I go all the way through to rendering it. And then when you follow those, that will be done. This is the syllabus for it. It's just worth 10 points. You can download the syllabus here. And that is it. So if you do have any issues, just as a reminder, if you go up here, you can see this is my Cecil email address, and this is my Wilmington. So just, you know, email me, and I will try to respond as, you know, quickly as possible. All right. And each one of these go to specifically those things, just so you know. I don't know if you got that. So this is 3D animation, so on and so forth. Okay. And like I said, every class is, oops, right down here. All right. That should be good. So good luck, and so on and so forth.